Many people quietly assume that closeness to Allah should result in ease, stability, and emotional safety. They believe faith is a shield against pain, loss, and disruption. When hardship arrives, they feel confused, even betrayed. This expectation is not rooted in revelation, but in comfort culture. Islam never taught that belief equals convenience. It taught that belief equals truth, and truth is often heavy to carry. A comfortable life was never presented as the reward for Iman. If it were, faith would be transactional, not transformative. Allah did not invite people to Him through luxury, but through meaning. Comfort makes the soul lazy, dependent, and forgetful. Struggle forces awareness, humility, and depth. Without hardship, the heart rarely asks serious questions. When ease becomes the benchmark for Allah's love, faith collapses the moment life turns harsh. This is why some people pray consistently until something goes wrong, then slowly disappear. Their relationship with Allah was conditional. True faith survives pressure because it was never built on outcomes. It was built on trust. Look closely at history and you'll notice a pattern that contradicts modern assumptions. The most beloved servants of Allah lived lives filled with uncertainty, grief, and sacrifice. They were not protected from pain, they were strengthened through it. Comfort was not their destination, clarity was. Hardship is not a sign that Allah is distant. Often, it is proof that He is actively shaping you. Comfort preserves who you are. Difficulty reveals who you truly are. In pain, masks fall away, excuses collapse, and sincerity is tested. Allah does not waste these moments. Many people say they want spiritual growth, but they reject the environment where growth actually happens. Growth does not occur in ease. It occurs where the ego is threatened and reliance is challenged. Allah knows exactly what pressure your soul needs, even when you don't. If Allah promised comfort, faith would attract followers for the wrong reasons. People would worship Him to avoid suffering, not to know Him. Islam is not an escape from reality. It is a framework for surviving reality with dignity. That distinction matters. Struggle is not always punishment. Sometimes it is elevation. Sometimes it is purification. Sometimes it is protection from something worse. But people rush to label hardship as failure because comfort has become their God. Allah refuses to be reduced to a comfort provider. A comfortable life produces attachment to dunya. A tested life produces awareness of akhirah. Allah prioritizes eternity over temporary ease. What feels cruel in the moment may be mercy in the long run. Human vision is short, divine wisdom is not. The heart that never breaks rarely learns how to submit. Pain cracks the heart open, making room for sincerity. Without that opening, faith stays shallow. Allah is not interested in surface-level belief. He is shaping hearts capable of standing before Him. People often say, "If Allah loved me, He wouldn't let this happen." That sentence reveals misunderstanding, not insight. Allah's love is not proven by what He removes, but by what He develops within you through what remains. Love is not the absence of difficulty. Comfort dulls remembrance. Difficulty sharpens it. In ease, people forget to ask. In hardship, they learn how to call. Allah knows what brings His servant back to Him. Sometimes, that path is uncomfortable by necessity. When comfort becomes the goal, faith becomes fragile. The moment comfort disappears, so does trust. Allah builds resilient believers, not fragile ones. Resilience requires resistance. There is no other way. Some people abandon faith not because life was hard, but because they were promised ease by their own assumptions. Islam never made that promise. It promised truth guidance, and accountability. Anything beyond that is projection. Hardship strips away entitlement. It teaches the soul that it is not owed ease. This realization is uncomfortable, but liberating. You stop bargaining with Allah and start submitting. Submission is where peace actually begins. A comfortable life does not automatically produce gratitude. Often, it produces entitlement. Struggle teaches appreciation in a way comfort never can. When ease finally comes after difficulty, it is received with humility, not arrogance. Allah allows pressure because pressure refines intention. It shows whether worship was for Allah or for reward. It exposes whether patience was real or performative. These are truths the soul cannot learn in comfort. People confuse mercy with softness. Mercy can be firm. Mercy can hurt. A surgeon causes pain to save a life. Allah allows difficulty to save a soul. The pain is temporary. The benefit is eternal. When Allah withholds comfort, He is not being cruel. He is being intentional. He knows the dangers of unchecked ease. He knows how quickly hearts drift when nothing hurts. Difficulty keeps the soul awake. If you measure Allah's favor by how smooth your life feels, you will always be confused. Faith is not validated by ease. It is proven by steadiness when ease disappears. That is where belief stops being theory and becomes reality. Allah never promised you a comfortable life. He promised you truth, guidance, and meaning. Comfort may come or go, but if faith is real, it survives both. Many people enter dua with an unspoken deadline. They ask, then wait briefly, and begin watching for visible change. When nothing shifts, disappointment creeps in. They assume silence means rejection. This assumption is emotional, not spiritual. Allah never tied His response to your sense of urgency. The modern mind is trained for speed. Messages arrive instantly, problems are solved quickly, and delays feel unnatural. People project this expectation onto Allah. But divine wisdom does not operate on human impatience. What feels slow to you may be perfectly timed in the unseen. Allah hears every dua the moment it leaves your heart. There is no lag, no barrier, no delay in awareness. The delay is in delivery, not in hearing. Confusing the two creates unnecessary doubt. Silence does not mean absence. Immediate answers would rob you of growth. Waiting stretches the heart in ways instant relief never could. Patience is not passive suffering, it is active trust. Without waiting, patience would never develop, and patience is central to faith. Some answers are delayed because the person asking is not ready to receive them. Readiness is not about desire, but capacity. What you want may be good, but you may not yet be able to carry it without harm. Allah delays to protect, not to punish. At times, the delay is not about you, but about what surrounds you. Other people, circumstances, and unseen variables must align. Allah controls the entire picture, not just your request. You see one frame, He sees the whole story. People often mistake emotional urgency for spiritual necessity. Just because something feels critical now does not mean it is beneficial now. Feelings are loud, but short-sighted. Allah's wisdom is quiet and far-reaching. If Allah answered everything immediately, dua would become a transaction. Ask, receive, move on. There would be no depth, no attachment, no reliance. Delay turns dua into a relationship, not a request form. Waiting exposes intention. Some people only make dua as long as they expect fast results. When the answer slows, so does their sincerity. Allah allows delay to reveal whether the heart was committed to Him or only to outcomes. There are moments when Allah answers by withholding, What feels like denial is often redirection. An unanswered dua may be saving you from something you cannot yet see. Protection often arrives disguised as silence. Silence forces reflection. It pushes the heart to ask deeper questions. It removes the illusion of control. In that space, humility grows. Allah values the state of your heart more than the speed of your relief. People say, "I've been patient long enough." But patience is not measured by time. It is measured by steadiness. True patience does not expire when results delay. It holds even when clarity does not arrive. Some du'as are delayed so that you return to Allah again and again. Each return polishes the heart. Each repetition deepens reliance. Without delay, many hearts would knock once and walk away. Delay also separates surface faith from rooted faith. Anyone can trust Allah when answers come quickly. Trust becomes real when nothing changes externally, but belief remains internally. There are du'as Allah stores for the akhirah. Not every answer belongs to this world. Some rewards are too heavy, too pure, too eternal to be spent here. Delay may simply mean not here. People often say they want Allah's will, but emotionally demand their own timing. True submission accepts the will, even when timing hurts. That acceptance is a form of worship. If Allah always answered immediately, life would become spiritually shallow. There would be no longing, no hope, no deep reliance. Delay keeps the heart connected, not comfortable. The pain of waiting is not meaningless. It trains the soul to surrender outcomes. It removes entitlement. It teaches the heart that Allah is not obligated to perform on your schedule. When an answer finally comes after long delay, it arrives differently. It is received with humility instead of expectation. Gratitude replaces demand. This transformation is not accidental. Allah never promised immediate answers. He promised that no sincere dua is wasted. The delay is part of the response, not its absence. Most people confuse sincerity with certainty. They believe that because they want something deeply, it must be good for them. Desire feels convincing, especially when emotions are involved. But intensity does not equal correctness. Allah never promised to validate every want of the heart. The human heart is not neutral. It is influenced by fear, loneliness, pride, and attachment. What you want is often shaped by what you are trying to escape. Allah sees beyond the emotion and into the consequence. He does not respond to impulse. He responds to reality. People assume that repeated dua means approval. They think persistence forces a yes, but dua is not pressure on Allah. It is exposure of the heart. Repetition reveals longing, not entitlement. Allah is not obligated by desire. There are things you want that would quietly dismantle your faith. Some attachments would replace reliance on Allah. Some successes would inflate ego. Some relationships would pull you away slowly until you no longer notice the distance. Allah blocks these paths intentionally. Disappointment often feels cruel because it challenges self-trust. You believed you knew what was best. When Allah withholds, it forces humility. That humility is not loss, it is correction. Correction is a form of mercy. Many people measure Allah's generosity by how often He says yes, but generosity also includes refusal. A parent who never says no is not kind, just negligent. Allah's care is wiser than indulgence. There are moments when Allah allows you to get what you want, just to show you why it was never good. These lessons are painful but clarifying. Not every withheld desire is punishment. Some granted desires are tests. Wanting something badly does not make it safe. Attachment blinds judgment. The more you want something, the harder it becomes to see its risks. Allah sees clearly when you cannot. Some people ask Allah for something that would distract them from their purpose. Others ask for things that would harden their hearts. Allah's refusal is sometimes the only thing keeping the heart soft and reachable. People often say, "I don't understand why Allah took this away." The answer is simple but heavy, because it would have cost you something more important later. Loss now can prevent destruction later. Allah's role is not to fulfill desires, but to protect the soul. Protection is not always gentle. It can feel like removal, denial, or redirection. But protection is still mercy. When Allah does not give you what you want, He is not ignoring your pain. He is prioritizing your future. Short-term disappointment is often traded for long-term stability. Desires are temporary, consequences are not. Allah governs by consequence, not craving. What you feel today will fade. What a choice creates can last forever. People mistake control for trust. They trust Allah as long as He agrees with them. Real trust begins when Allah chooses differently and you stay surrendered. There are prayers you will thank Allah for not answering. You just don't know it yet. Time will reveal what emotion cannot. Distance creates clarity. Allah does not owe you what you want. He owes you justice, guidance, and care. Anything beyond that is mercy, not entitlement. When Allah removes something you wanted, He may be making space for something purer. But even if He doesn't replace it immediately, the removal itself can be the blessing. Faith matures when the heart learns to say, "Allah knows better," without resentment. That sentence is not weakness. It is alignment. The heart that trusts Allah's choice over its own becomes lighter. It stops fighting reality. It stops demanding explanation. Peace begins there. Allah never promised to give you what you want. He promised to give you what you need, even when it hurts to receive it. Guidance is not automatic. It is not downloaded into the heart by proximity, habit, or identity. Allah promises guidance to those who genuinely want truth, even when truth threatens comfort. Sincerity is not a feeling. It is a decision to accept direction, even when it contradicts desire. Many people ask Allah to guide them, but resist the moment guidance demands change. They want clarity without consequence. Allah does not offer guidance as information alone. He offers it as transformation. If the heart is unwilling to shift, guidance will feel invisible. Sincerity begins when a person stops negotiating with Allah. When they say, "Show me what is right, even if it costs me," the heart opens. That openness is what guidance enters through. Allah does not mislead the sincere heart. Guidance often arrives quietly. It does not always come as sudden certainty or emotional relief. Sometimes it comes as discomfort with old habits, loss of interest in harmful paths, or a subtle redirection away from things that once felt appealing. People expect guidance to remove confusion instantly. In reality, guidance often sharpens awareness before it brings peace. You become more conscious of your choices, more sensitive to wrong, and less tolerant of inner contradiction. That discomfort is part of the process. Allah does not guide the proud. Pride blocks learning. The heart that already knows has no space to receive. Sincerity requires admitting ignorance and vulnerability. That admission is difficult but necessary. When someone sincerely seeks Allah, their internal compass slowly realigns. Decisions become clearer, even if they remain hard. Confusion loses its grip, not because everything makes sense, but because trust stabilizes the heart. Guidance is not about removing struggle, it is about direction within struggle. Allah does not promise an easy path, but He promises a clear one. Knowing where to walk matters more than how smooth the road feels. Sometimes guidance comes through closed doors. What no longer works, no longer attracts, or no longer opens is often guidance in disguise. Allah removes paths before they harm the heart. Sincere guidance requires consistency. One moment of honesty is not enough. The heart must return again and again, choosing truth over ego. Allah responds to persistence, not performance. People often confuse guidance with emotional comfort. But guidance can demand sacrifice. It can require ending relationships, changing habits, or standing alone. Allah guides toward what is right, not what is popular. If you feel lost, it may not be because Allah withheld guidance, but because the heart is divided. Guidance requires singularity of intention. When the heart wants Allah and dunya equally, clarity blurs. Allah promises guidance to those who act on what they already know. Small acts of obedience open doors to deeper clarity. Ignored truth blocks future guidance. Guidance also comes through hardship. Difficulty strips illusions and forces honest reflection. Many people only find direction when everything familiar collapses. Allah uses disruption to reorient the soul. The guided heart becomes less reactive. It stops chasing every emotion and opinion. Stability replaces chaos, not because life calms down, but because the heart anchors itself in Allah. Allah's guidance is not dramatic, but it is reliable. It unfolds over time, shaping thought, intention, and action. You may not notice it day to day, but you will recognize it in hindsight. True guidance creates humility, not superiority. The more guided a person becomes, the less they judge others. They recognize how fragile they once were. If you sincerely seek Allah, guidance is guaranteed, not in your preferred form, but in the form that saves your soul. Allah does not abandon the honest heart. Guidance is Allah's promise to the sincere. The responsibility of sincerity belongs to you. Justice is one of the most emotionally tested beliefs in Islam. People witness oppression, betrayal, and imbalance, and they struggle to reconcile it with faith. When wrongdoers appear to thrive, doubt whispers that justice failed. But Allah never promised visible justice in every moment. He promised perfect justice in the end. Human justice is limited by evidence, power, and time. Allah's justice is limited by none. Nothing escapes His awareness. No intention, no manipulation, no silent wrongdoing disappears. What looks unresolved to you is simply unfinished. Many people assume that because someone was not punished, they were spared. In reality, delay can be part of accountability. Allah sometimes allows people to go further so that their return becomes heavier, not lighter. Justice does not always arrive as interruption. Pain feels unbearable when it seems meaningless, but injustice recorded by Allah is never meaningless. Every tear carries weight. Every moment of restraint counts. Allah does not need witnesses to validate suffering. He already knows. People often demand justice on their own timeline because emotional wounds crave closure, but emotional closure is not the same as divine justice. Allah's timing prioritizes truth over relief. What you want to be over quickly, Allah wants to be settled correctly. Sometimes justice appears in ways people do not recognize. A hardened heart, loss of peace, or internal emptiness can be consequences more severe than visible punishment. Not all accountability is loud. Believers are not promised revenge, they are promised fairness. Revenge satisfies the ego. Justice restores balance. Allah does not empower anger. He preserves truth. When Allah tells you to be patient in injustice, He is not asking you to accept wrong. He is asking you to trust that nothing is escaping his control. Patience is not silence. It is refusal to corrupt your soul while waiting. Some injustices are too complex, too deep, or too hidden to be resolved in this world. That is why the Akhirah exists, a place where truth cannot be buried and excuses cannot survive. People who hurt others may laugh, sleep peacefully, and appear successful. That does not mean they are free. Accountability does not require visible suffering to be real. Allah knows when to expose and when to delay. For the one who was wronged, justice is also healing. Knowing that Allah will restore what was taken brings strength. You stop chasing validation from people and anchor yourself in divine certainty. Allah's justice is precise, nothing extra, nothing missing, no exaggeration, no oversight. Every detail is accounted for. That level of accuracy cannot exist in this world. If justice were always immediate, faith would be shallow. People would obey out of fear, not conviction. Delay tests sincerity. It reveals whether belief is conditional on visible fairness. The wronged are never forgotten. Even when the world moves on, Allah does not. What feels overlooked is simply stored. Stored does not mean lost. Justice also applies to the self. Allah will ask how you responded when wronged. Did you preserve integrity or surrender to bitterness? Justice is not only about outcomes, but character. Some people will not apologize. Some truths will not be acknowledged. Some harm will never be repaired here. This is not failure, it is reality. The promise was never this world. Allah's justice restores dignity. On the day it manifests fully, no one will feel shortchanged. Clarity will replace confusion. Truth will silence doubt. Until then, patience is not weakness. It is confidence in something larger than the present moment. It is trust in a system that does not collapse under emotion. Allah does not rush justice because He does not need to. Time works for Him, not against Him. What you see now is a fragment. The conclusion is still coming. Allah promised justice, not immediacy, not visibility, but perfection. And that promise never breaks.